By the end of this video, you will be able to identify the number of valence electrons in an atom by looking at the periodic table. Valence electrons are the electrons that are on the outermost shell of an atom. For example, let's look at the lithium-7 isotope. Lithium-7 has 3 protons and 4 neutrons, giving it an atomic mass of 7. And the number of electrons, in order for it to be neutral, has to be equal to the number of protons. Thus, lithium-7 has 3 electrons to match its 3 protons. Now, the first energy level can only hold up to 2 electrons. So we put 2 in the first energy level, and the outermost shell, the next energy level, will hold that 1 remaining electron. And if we look at the electrons on the outermost shell, we see that lithium has 1 valence electron. Let's compare that to the most common isotope of neon, neon-20. Neon-20 has 10 protons and 10 neutrons, giving it an atomic mass of 20. Now the number of electrons is equal to the number of protons, therefore neon will have 10 electrons. And we can start filling up these shells. The first shell can only hold up to 2 electrons. And now, in order to get a total of 10, we need to put 8 somewhere. The second shell can hold up to 8 electrons. And so we add 8 to the second shell, giving us a total of 10 electrons for neon. And we can see that the outermost shell has 8 electrons. And it becomes clear that neon has 8 valence electrons. Now, we don't have to draw Bohr models every time we want to find a number of valence electrons. We can just look at the periodic table. Group 1, every element in group 1 has 1 valence electron. Every element in group 2 has 2 valence electrons. Every element in group 13 has 3 valence electrons. 14 has 4 valence electrons. 15 has 5. 16 has 6. 17 has 7. And group 18, all the elements have 8 valence electrons, except for helium, which has 2 valence electrons. Now, all of the elements in group 18 have completely full outer shells. From neon down, they have 8 valence electrons in their outer shells. Those outer shells are completely full. But for helium, helium only has 2 electrons, period. And those 2 electrons can fit on its first energy level. So helium, even though it doesn't have 8 electrons in its outer shell, it still does have a full outer shell with its 2 electrons. To further explain, let's look at group 1. Hydrogen, 1 valence electron. Lithium, 1 valence electron. Okay, we're starting to get the point. Looking at group 3. Group 13. Boron, 3 valence electrons. Aluminum, 3 valence electrons. Gallium, 3 valence electrons. Looking at group 15. Nitrogen, 5 valence electrons. Arsenic, 5 valence electrons. Looking at group 17. Fluorine and chlorine, 7 valence electrons. And as you can see, it's easy to tell the number of valence electrons just by looking at the periodic table. Now, we're going to ignore these. These are complicated, and we're going to get to them later. We're also going to ignore these down here. Now, you know that electrons that are on the outermost shell of an atom are the valence electrons. And finally, now you know how to identify the number of valence electrons in an atom simply by looking at the periodic table.